Today I'm going to be explaining how to set up a BMX front brake. In all of my time developing and riding the Vice Grip brakes from Alienation since we started working on them in 2020, I have yet to set these up as a front brake, and it's been quite some time since my original how to set up and install a BMX front brake video. So I thought my buddy Cody Chitwood here is building a new bike, came down, asked me to work on his brake setup for him and get everything going. This would be a perfect opportunity to refresh the how to install a front brake video using Alienation Vice Grip brakes, which if you've never seen these before, these have bearings in the arms. They're CNC machined from 7000 series aluminum, and they come with all of the different components required to install for both back brakes, which we've already done, and front brakes, which I'm going to run through right now. So what you're going to need to do this is brakes, obviously, with brake pads, whichever ones you want to go with. You could get the Alienations, you could get others. More than likely, they will be available at Dan's Comp, and you can use my code to save 10% on them. But you're going to need front brakes or brakes and brake pads. You're going to need a brake lever of some kind. They do make specific left side brake levers, which is normally where people will run their lever for their front brakes. You're going to need a cable, which we have here, inner and housing. You're going to need a couple things for the brakes specifically in addition to your tools. So with your brakes, you are going to need a front brake barrel adapter. And what this is, we'll focus in here. This is basically just a piece that will seat directly into the brake arm like so, and has a barrel adjuster on it so you can adjust out slack this way. And you'll see exactly how that works in a minute, but you're gonna need that. And then you're gonna need a NARP for the other side. Pretend this is the other side now. This goes in here and your cable goes into it, and you tighten it as the cables stop with this in one side and your front brake barrel in the other. And you're also probably gonna want a zip tie, which Cody has this really, really cool, super wide zip tie that he got. So we're gonna be using that. And aside from that, you're just gonna need the tools required, some tri-flow if you want to lubricate the inside of the cable, and I'll focus back out here, and some grease to put on the brake mounts. Once you have everything gathered, you are ready to start the install process, and we're gonna move a bit closer for that. All right, here we are at the fork to begin the install process, where we're gonna start with the brake arms themselves. Right here we have the right side, because these brake arms and most brake arms have one that has to go on before the other. As you can see, the left one is shaped in a way that it goes over the right. So we can go ahead and take our right brake pad, slide it onto the mount, put it all the way on, and then we'll probably have to adjust our pad a little bit in order to get it in the right place to keep going. Then we have our spring and our cap. With the Alienation brakes, the black spring goes on the right side. If you drop them or you can't figure it out, I do have a video explaining exactly how to figure out which spring goes to which side. But for these, this is how it works. And so now we're gonna take our shout out to Park Tool T-handle Allen wrench, and we're just gonna tighten this down. Not all the way, but just until it's about to do something. Then we're gonna take our left side brake arm and we're gonna put it on. Put it all the way on. Take our other spring and cap. This one is more of like the yellowish metal. And we're gonna put the spring into this little hole right here. If I turn it, you'll be able to see better. And then the cap and the bolt. If we can line them up. There we go. Now, same exact thing. Just tighten this until it's about to start doing something. right here. Okay, so the next step in the process, which is logical and easy here, I think would be to set up the brake pads just because we are here and we might as well. So to do this, I want to make these pads parallel to the rim as best as possible. To do that, we're going to loosen it all of the way, and I'm going to just set it in place against the rim as parallel as possible, and that's just going to kind of set it up to finish tightening. And now seems pretty good. So we're going to do the exact same thing with the other side, get it to a point where it just sits parallel to the rim. And when we do this, it allows it to sit in the way that when we tighten it, the spacers and everything ends up being where it needs to be. And keep in mind too, these are not the stock Alienation pads. The Alienation brakes come with a female style bolt here, but now that is set up, and we could do the spring tension now if we wanted to, but we're going to save that for a next or a later step, and we're going to go upward to put on the brake lever and the brake cable and begin that process. All right, here we are up at the handlebars where we are going to install the brake lever next. Pretty simple process. Like I mentioned before, they do make brake levers that are left-sided, like the Alienation fulcrum lever, which Cody will probably be getting soon, right? Right. And he'll be using the code from Dan's Comp to get them. But pretty simple. Most levers have a hinge these days. It's just a 5mm bolt. And this one being a normal right-sided lever that he's running upside down, you run it upside down and you put the lever over the bar like this, and then you use that 5mm Allen to tighten the bolt. And we can finalize the position of the lever later, but once we have the lever installed, pretty simple. But come over here real quick and grab our cable, which has a normal barrel end on it, and I'm hoping that this housing is gonna be good, because we've used one housing for this whole setup and I kind of laid it out and it seems like it might work. But with this Odyssey M2 lever, it works in an interesting way where you run the cable through the lever. And actually, I'm doing this wrong already. You need to put this end piece on here first, which it comes with a single and a dual. So for this, we're going to put the single on, then we're going to run it through the lever, and then we're going to seat the end of the inner in the lever, and that is installed. And now we need this handlebar pad that Cody has from the, are you going brown up? It's two-sided. Okay. And so now we're going to put this over here, and we're going to have to go down a little bit to see what comes next, because we have to route this cable through the fork, down through, and then back out the other side. So we're going to do all of that now. All right, so we moved down a little bit to be able to see this whole situation a bit better. Once you have your cable installed into the lever, you're going to need to run it down through your fork. These forks have a cap on them that have a second hole here for the cable to run through, so you can still loosen and tighten them with the 6mm. And hopefully you can find some other forks that have that if you don't have these ones. But like we talked about with this handlebar pad, Cody has this. So we need to run the end of the cable inner through it, then the housing through it. And we still don't know if this housing is going to be the right length, but that doesn't matter now because we can adjust it once we're down there. We're going to run the inner through the fork, through that hole in the headset compression cap. Run the, just kidding, the cable housing end doesn't fit, so we'll have to put that on once it's through. Good tip there. Cable housing ends will not fit. And we're gonna run the inner back through, pull this, and the cable housing now fits. I'm gonna run this down and you'll see that it's gonna come out the bottom, pull it through, and this is an important step here where I'm actually gonna have to ask Cody's input. Which side do you put your foot?
The right side.
The right side, so you want the cable on the left side?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is gonna matter for you where you set this up, and we need to come down lower so I can explain a little bit better. All right, we're down here a bit, and we're going to run this cable housing on the left side of the fork, but if you have a normal set of brakes with normal ends on both sides of the arms, you can run this cable housing on either side depending upon which side you put your foot for any kind of foot jam or nose pick type whip tricks or anything like that, and then you can run it around from either side that you need to. And when I said that I was hoping that we wouldn't have to cut this and it would all work, if we do a little bit of a tester here, because we have to kind of put this at a pretty harsh angle, this is about where this is going to end up. And as you can see, we are still going to have to cut this housing. Even if we ran it like that, it'd be pretty loose there. So at this point, we need to figure out how much housing. Cody, can you come over here again? What do you like? Because this is a personal preference thing. You could run this super, super tight and end up something like that, or you could run it a little bit looser.
Probably a little looser.
And at the same time, you want to pay attention to where your cable sits and the top and how much excess you have with your housing, because that's another preference thing. Does that look okay in terms of how much cable is sticking out up here?
Yeah, that looks fine.
Okay, so once you have the upper part of the housing and everything solidified, you can look at this down here and make a final kind of judgment on that. What are you thinking here? Does this seem okay?
Yeah, that's probably good. And then a zip tie there to hold it a little better.
Okay, so we're thinking probably cut it like here.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so then what we're gonna have to do is actually disconnect the brake cable from the lever, and you're gonna wanna pull this cable housing all the way out so that when you cut this, it does not cut your inner at the same time. I have done that. It is a bonehead rookie mistake, and we're not going to make that mistake today. So there, so I don't have to move the camera. This is me pulling the inner out all the way. Once the inner is out of here, we can make a final judgment call on this, because we want to remember that it's going to sit probably, if this is where the brakes are pulled all the way, it's going to sit somewhere probably like right here, and it's going to have that front brake adapter. If you could hand me that right there, it's going to have this front brake adapter in it, and our housing will go in somewhere in this neighborhood here. So Cody, this is where you make the decision of where you want it to sit. How's this looking? More or less?
A little more. That looks good.
Right in there?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to cut it right here. And if it's wrong, we have 2 more cable housings to practice with. There's that. And now we can run our housing back down through our lever into the housing, which then comes out the bottom right here. And I always like to take this and kind of just make a rotating motion with it so that this is all the least amount of friction that you can possibly have. And then we can grab our housing end once again and put that on here. Slide that onto our cable, pull the inner all the way through, put our cable end back into the lever all the way. That's seated. And so now when we pull on this inner, we know that it is all the way to where it needs to go. And we can probably slide on our barrel adjuster at the same time, even though we don't quite need it yet, because the next thing we're going to need to do, really, I guess we don't have to do spring tension yet, because the cable end that goes onto this other side, that all can get figured out without spring tension. But this is how it's all coming together, and we're going to give you a better look at that right now. All right, front view here where we can set things up exactly how we had it from the other angle. We can see how it all aligns here, and you can see how these Alienation brakes are made to be used as fronts with this machining right here. It exists on this arm as well. But what we need to do now is loosen out this barrel adjuster, because we're going to set these up so that the pads are touching both rims. You can see there, and you can see there, so that when we tighten down this NARP right here and everything is locked in place, we can then tighten this barrel back in, and the spring tension will pull the pads away from the rim and give us our brake pull. And so I'm going to need to, before we get too far here, I guess we can't go any further without putting the NARP onto the cable inner. And now put everything back the way that we just had it. Put the front brake barrel and adapter into there. And this is where you may find you need hands, or another set of hands, but you also may be able to do it yourself. I don't know what just fell and hit the ground, or if it was just something bouncing off of something else, but I heard a noise. Either way, what I'm going to try and do now is make sure that we pull all of the slack out of this. I already tightened this NARP to where it was almost doing something, just so that once we get to this point, the brake pads are touching the rim, and all that we'll really need to do is make sure we're pulling all the slack out and then tighten down the screw in this NARP. And that's locked in place. The pads are solid against the rim. We have a little bit of movement there. And now we can tighten down our front brake barrel adapter. And we'll be able to see that when this all gets seated in place, we now have movement for the arm. And you may find that you want to put that NARP a little bit further in, depending upon how you like your pull to be set up. But Cody, can you pull that? I'm going to pretend I'm the spring tension. Just pull it a few times. Yeah. How's that gap feel? Feel decent enough to where you could adjust it in the lever?
Oh yeah, it feels good.
Cool. So then from here, we know that this is in a good place, and what we'll want to do next is the spring tension. And the spring tension is something that comes down to personal preference in terms of the actual finalized setup. But you want to make sure that when you're doing this, you're tightening the springs in a way that pulls the pad away from the rim, like you just saw right there. It sprung back to the rim when I let it go. We're going to tighten it this way, and it pulls itself away from the rim. And we're gonna have to fine tune this, and this is something you can tinker with as you're setting these up to get to a stopping point for you. We do that side, now we do this side, which tightens this way, pulling that pad away from the rim. See if we can get enough leverage with it like this. And now we pull them. Oh my gosh, they feel so good already. Holy cow. Okay, so where spring tension comes into play for front brakes is that if one side doesn't have enough spring tension, it will be close to the rim, and when you pull, it'll hit first, then the other side will finish tightening. That means that this spring is not as tight as this spring is. And so we can take this, and I'm going to tighten it up To do that, we're gonna put our Allen in there. We're gonna loosen it. And then we're gonna tighten this spring a bit more and just pull our brake. And now both hit at about the same time. So that feels pretty decent, but we're definitely gonna have to adjust a bit out here to get things exactly in the right place, but oh, even just that was enough. These feel great already. So the next step is really just going to be putting the zip tie on, cutting the cable end, and doing finishing touches like tightening up the brake lever up here that is moving around everywhere right now. So zip tie, Cody, how does this work? Zip tie goes in which way? Like this way? You like this way?
Yep.
Okay, so zip tie goes in like this and then around the cable like this?
Yep.
Well, for one, we have it the wrong way. I have it the wrong way, not we. I did that. So this is good?
Yep.
Wow, that is wicked. That's what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Right there?
That'll do.
That's it? Okay. Oh, and they feel that much better. So I'm noticing that this one's not moving. We'll have to do some fine tuning with the spring tension, but next we can cut this cable end off with our cutters. How much excess do you want on this?
Probably just an inch for now.
Right here?
Yeah.
That is cut. We can put a cable end on this. Then we can make sure the lever's in a good place. We're gonna do some fine tuning down here with the brake spring tension and get it all buttoned up. We'll cut the zip tie and put a cable end onto the cable inner, and then we'll come back to see how it all came together. One very important step that I completely forgot about was the tri-flow in the cable. So I took things back apart here quickly to drip some tri-flow into this cable and make sure that it is running as smoothly as possible. Just putting a bunch in here, and then as it runs in, we can grab it and just go like this and run this tri-flow until you see it coming out of the other side, and then we will finish the dialing in process and show you the finalized thing. All right, before everything's all dialed in, I want to show you guys something I just figured out while I was getting these springs perfectly tensioned for a brake pull that when we have Cody feel them for the first time, you will understand. But I found a way to get tension as close as possible, as fast as possible with a smaller amount of tension if that's what you like. And basically what I did was I tightened the one side spring first so that it was moving with very light spring tension. And then what I did was I came to the other side and I tightened the tension without it being tight. So this side's tightened all the way down. I came to this side, tensioned the spring with nothing being tight while pulling the brakes until the brakes had a perfect feeling pull with the right amount of tension where this one is moving and this one is moving. And then I tightened this one down, and that is what has led us to a pull that we are going to have Cody test out. And what I want to explain too right now is that I noticed that, and you can probably see this, that this side moves way more than this side, but if you listen, it sounds like they're hitting and it feels like they're hitting at the exact same time. So the pull feels really good. It just looks a little kind of strange, but if we tightened this spring more, I have a feeling that it would actually make these not hit at the same time. So these are fully dialed in, and all that's left would be to cut this zip tie, put an end on here, and then we're good to go. So let's go up here and get Cody's reaction to how these feel, because I kind of am excited for it myself. Finishing touches are done, final adjustments. Cody, I'm gonna let you pull your front brakes now because they I want to see and hear your reaction, which you may actually just downplay because you know you're being filmed, but let's see it.
Oh.
Is it good?
Yeah, I mean, it feels good.
Let's go.
Way better than the other one.
Let's go. It's the first set of front brakes I've set up probably since the last front brake video. We just did Cody's entire brake setup. I didn't film the rears because it was too similar to mine that I just did a long video on. But Cody's new bike seems to be all done except for bar ends at this point. So stoked on the brakes. Did it turn out good?
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe the front brakes feel better than the back brakes, but they do. Either way, this has been how to install front brakes on your BMX bike. Alienation Vice Grip brakes. You should get a fulcrum lever, and if you want them and you don't have a local bike shop near you, Dan's Comp, use my code. Thanks for watching. Saves you 10% and helps me at the same time. Enjoy your bike, Cody.
Thanks.
Goodbye.